Time we would move to the gentleman from North Carolina. Mr. Holdings, recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Evanson, I'd like for you to give us some, real life, frontline context. First, just to establish, in your 20-plus years as a prosecutor, most of that as a drug prosecutor, how many drug defendants do you think you have prosecuted and who have been prosecuted under your supervision? Just a general number.
I had my own caseload while I was supervising a drug unit. I would say I've done hundreds myself over that period of time, but we've done over those years thousands, and we specifically went after the biggest organizations by using the techniques I described earlier.
So in the thousands of drug defendants that you have personally dealt with, how many of those were low-level, nonviolent drug offenders?
Well, let me just say this. I hear the term nonviolent thrown around.
Is the trafficking of drugs a violent crime?
It is by its very nature. You show me a city with a violence problem, and I will show you an underlying drug trafficking problem. With drugs comes guns and violence. It's the nature of the game. They don't take their problems to court. They enforce it at the end of a gun. And any sheriff in my district, they would tell me, because I knew them all. I had 44 counties. Their biggest problem was drugs and drug-related crime. That's what they were focused on, if they could get that problem solved. So I don't accept the term nonviolent when it comes to drugs. These organizations are by their nature drug, and the higher they get, the more.
But drug trafficking is a crime of violence.
Yes, sir, it is.
I mean, by statute, it's a crime of violence.
And I'm just going to say this right now. I have an opportunity. Law enforcement does not have a war on drugs. We have a war on drug traffickers. We seize drugs and we arrest traffickers. That's our mission. And we represent many of these people in these poor communities of color who are victimized by that. They can't let their kids.
I want you to focus in on another member of the task force pointed out that law enforcement prosecutors can choose the communities in which they go into and look for crime and prosecute crime.
Well,
talk about some of those communities that you have been a part of going into and trying to eradicate drug trafficking.
Congressman Backus a moment ago asked me a question I didn't get to finish. One example, we had a community where a drug dealer had been selling for years. He had a fence around his yard. He had high dollar vehicles. He had 4 of them. He had built an addition on his house. And there was a photo of one of my agents driving one of these high-dollar vehicles out of the driveway, and he said, "Eric, you see that picture?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You know what happened when I drove it down the street?" I said, "No." He said, "The neighborhood had come out on the street, and they were clapping." And this was a bad, violent drug dealer. And that's the kind of people that we represent.
That's when the agent drove down the street.
He took it was a Corvette. He took the Corvette out of the driveway, and he said, right as I turned and went down the street, they were lined up clapping. And we represent some of the most vulnerable people, the poor, the elderly, the young, the addicted, and they have no voice. They have no way to sell their home and move away when a drug dealer sets up shop in a neighborhood and the property values drop. So, quite frankly, I am personally offended when I hear charges of racism. The laws are race neutral. We go where the battle is hottest. We represent people that are victimized by this activity. It doesn't make any difference what neighborhood it is. I've never prosecuted anybody on the basis of race, and neither has any AUSA. The Department of Justice does not prosecute anybody on the basis of race. We have to go where the evidence leads us, and that's where we go.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank you. At this time, the chair recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen, for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. I apologize for being late. A couple of post-midnight sessions, whatever. I walked in, Mr. Evanson, to hear you say something that just was incredulous, that there's not a war on drugs, that you say there's a war on drug dealers. Is that what you said? Something
Yes,
to that
sir, I
effect?
did say that.
Yeah, and you said that the laws are race neutral. You say the laws are race neutral.
Yes, sir, they are.
Nobody denies the fact that the laws are race neutral. What the fact is the implementation of the laws is not race neutral, and it is racial profiling. And but all laws are race neutral since 1865, except in the South, which went to 1963. Then they were not race neutral. But the implementation by people under color of law who arrest 8 times more African Americans for possession of marijuana than whites is not race neutral. Is that not a reality?
Congressman, I understand there's a lot of statistics being thrown around, but
Yeah, like 99% of the people believe in climate change, and some of the people go with the 1%. We'll go back to the statistics.
sir, I cannot argue the statistics. All I can tell you is on a daily basis, I deal with drug agents that are black, white, Indian. I have drug dealers that are black, white, Indian in our district. We have prosecuted wherever the evidence led us.
I don't
and we
deny you
dealt
don't
with
prosecute them, and I understand that. I'm just saying arrests, and a lot of it's street-level arrests. And I don't presume you're a federal prosecutor, you're not?
Yes, sir, and Uniform Patrol is unable to stop this problem. It has to be investigators. They can't do anything on Uniform Patrol. They just pick up a person with possession, and it ends there.
Do you believe that marijuana is less dangerous to our society than meth, heroin, crack, and cocaine?
Well, the laws indicate that, yes, sir. Meth is highly addictive.
The laws don't indicate that. Marijuana is a Schedule I drug, the same as heroin and LSD.
Well,
That law does not indicate it.
In our courtroom, it's treated differently, I can tell you that. Methamphetamine is instantly addictive.
I agree with you. That's right. And you might be the best in your courtroom. I don't know, but I hope you are. But you're right. You need to go after meth and heroin and crack and cocaine. And
We do that, sir.
How about marijuana, though?
Well, marijuana, some of the most violent marijuana, some of the most violent dealers that I have experienced were marijuana growers.
Because it's illegal, and they're violent when the police come in, or the DEA, to try to bust them.
Well,
so it's not that they are just, like Malum in say. They're not violent in say. They are violent because of the laws.
Well, I have been threatened by marijuana growers.
Right,
and
but
they
if it
wanna
was
do
legal,
their
do you think
thing.
if it was legal, do you think they'd threaten you? They
Well-
threaten you because it's illegal.
Well, that's a different question, Congressman. I'm just telling you my experience.
I got you. And when alcohol was illegal, I mean, Al Capone and Frank Nitti and all those guys we watched on The Untouchables, Robert Stack, I mean, they were bad guys. But now they're wholesalers. They're nice guys. It's just a matter how you flip it.